Hey, welcome to another race of the Super Metroid Item Randomizer League Season 4. We got a race here, Week 2, between Incompetent Perfectionists representing the Paper Trackers and Dasser12 representing the Mastercard Lotus PSC Baseball Guild. Mastercard going off to a pretty nice start in the tournament. 2-1 so far. Paper Trackers still looking for their first win. 0-3, currently 0-1 in this Week 2 best of 2. Also had a pretty rough Week 1 matchup, playing a multi-world against, I believe, MM2 and Farfaloo, which they might be the scariest co-op team in the entire tournament. I'm not going to lie to you. But as for the two runners we have today, we've got two very evenly matched vanilla runners, and I believe evenly matched randomizer runners as well. I think they both have a pretty similar amount of experience with running the game, or playing randomizer rather. Settings today are full area, full item randomizer with countdown, so you can see in the top left corner of each player's screen it shows the area they're currently in and the number of major items they have left to find. In this case, it's actually only 3 in criteria. Usually that number can be very high because it's possible that the seed requires you to get a lot of miners early. And of course, Morph Ball has to be in this criteria Retro Brinstar area, which is all counted as criteria. So realistically, this is just Morph Ball and 2 other major items. There will also be vanilla bosses, which is non-trivial, especially in areas like Wreck Ship. So if you find that area, you know that there is Fantoon, which will activate the Wreck Ship and allow you to make all of the checks there. And we've got a nice vanilla morph. We'll see if they are able to find the other 2 major items early, or if they're in some trolley spots in criteria, because there are a lot of slow checks here. Criteria Power Bombs is rough. Criteria Super Missiles is rough and usually impossible the first trip through criteria. You have to get Speed Booster and a couple E-Tanks, I believe. Maybe it's possible with 1. It doesn't come up very often, though, so I don't really think about it very much, I won't lie. Find our first E-Tank. Now, in full countdown, because E-Tanks are not counted as major items, finding E-Tanks is actually pretty important. You can run into a lot of situations where, because you're specifically looking for major items, it can be hard to find E-Tanks, so if you're not able to find them early, then you can end up playing a lot of the seed with very low energy. So good that the runners are both going to be able to find one right away. Incomp having a little bit of trouble with this D-boost up to the E-Tank location. Usually if you mess it up, you kind of just want to reload the room and get the Rio back into a nice position. Fortunately for Dasser, we'll see if Incomp decides to make this check as well. Billy Mays contains one of the 2 remaining major items in criteria, which is that space jump, which is actually going to make things much nicer, but unfortunately, without having these power bombs in the ceiling, there is not a lot you can really do. Also a nice early seed in terms of super missile count, finding 2 super missile packs, 1 at Alpha Missiles and 1 at Billy Mays. Now, one thing to note about Dasser is because he checked Billy Mays, he won't actually be able to check the area portal behind Morph Ball. So he can check the item, and if it's a power bomb or if it's vanilla bombs, he's actually not going to check the item at all, which I think might be a little bit of a mistake, but that's okay. He wouldn't be able to go through that portal and get out if that portal's a dead end. Theoretically, 2 power bombs would be enough to get all the way through to the door, but if you didn't have a way to get power bombs, you wouldn't have a way back out. So it would be an unwise decision. Another early E-Tank. That's really nice for sure. Also, yeah, chat pointing out pretty nice sprites going on. We've got the Vector Samus for Incomp, who's unfortunately still struggling with this D-boost here. Actually just gonna bail. It looks like he can get to Bomb Terizo, so if Bomb Terizo is a bomb item, then that will give him a way up, but unfortunately going to be skipping a lot of checks on the way, including that Billy Mays, which would give him that space jump if he chose to go and check it. Honestly, in this situation, I probably would have skipped Billy Mays and been missing out on the space jump. I will not lie to you. But also going to miss out on the Old Mother Brain and 230 checks that Dasser made. Got a second E-Tank and his first missile pack. Having a few missiles is pretty important regardless of the situation, even if you find Charge Beam early. Just having missiles to fight Fantoon, to fight small enemies and kill them in one shot. There's a lot of situations where having missiles is very useful, even if they aren't technically required to beat the seed once you find super missiles. Well, that's really good for Incomp. It's actually vanilla bombs, which will also mean we're going to see some BT fights. Fortunately, with super missiles, fighting Bomb Terizo is actually quite easy. It's 2 missiles and a super missile if you want to be optimal, or you can just opt for 2 super missiles and be easy. Unfortunately, if you use 2 super missiles, you actually saw for Dasser, there's a little animation where the Bomb Terizo's chest breaks open, and that wastes like half a second. So if you want to be technically optimal, I believe 2 missiles and a super missile is a little bit faster, but it's not something that makes a huge difference. Yeah, finding bombs is really good for Incomp. Not able to get those power bombs. I wonder if he'll go back for them. I wouldn't be surprised. With bombs, it'll also allow him to check Billy Mays without using too many power bombs, and could theoretically go and check the door transition at the back of Retro Brinstar behind Morph. We have not seen any area transitions yet, with Dasser using the power bombs on Billy Mays and Incomp not getting the power bombs just yet. Dasser gonna save, actually gonna go right. Kind of an interesting play. Obviously these two transitions are in logic with super missiles and space jump, actually, to get across the moat. I think with bombs, moat is also in logic, I believe. I want to be careful not to hit these crabs, though. With no suits, these will do 120 damage, and even though Dasser has a couple E-tanks, that's more damage than he'd like to take. Meanwhile, Incomp actually not going to go down to Retro Brinstar, just going to go straight over to the left, finds another Powerbomb pack at Terminator. And I did not see what that transition was for Dasser, I will not lie. I was looking on the other side. But whatever it was not something he wanted to go through right away. We'll see if he goes back for it, though. Oh no, that's a little bit tragic, dropping the space jump there. Well, we see Lower Norfair there at G4, the front of Lower Norfair, which arguably the worst of the two transitions to find. Since if you find the back, you can actually go basically straight to Ridley without going through all the worst room in the game and pillars. Got 2 items in Red Brinstar. That's actually pretty good for Dasser, who has space jump and is able to check this, able to make this X-ray check pretty easily. There are only 5 items in the entirety of Red Tower, and so the odds that X-ray is one of the 2 major items is fairly high. So that's going to be really good for Dasser, who I believe is just going straight there. Not going to see any gauntlet checks. No reason to for Dasser. He's already got all 3 major items from Criteria. The Morph Ball, Bombs, and Space Jump were the 3. Incomp also does have bombs, I believe, so we'll get that set up soon. Shoutouts to Storm D tracking. Storm D, and I believe his son was helping him, he said. So shoutouts to Storm D's son. on the duo tracking with the man himself. So Daster going to find this lower norfair portal. Obviously not going to do that just yet. And upon finding Red Tower, I imagine he's going to be pretty happy. Well, that was Retro Brinstar. It was the bottom of Red Tower, actually. Would have been a little bit nice to find, but unfortunately, neither runner was able to get that early on. Really surprised Daster's not just going straight to X right here with Space Jump, but maybe he wants to check all the areas out first before making any decisions. There's a lot to think about in these area randomizers. There's so many portals that lead to different locations that you need to keep track of, and you're going to see a lot of hesitation from these runners. You see both Daster and Incomp did a little bit of a hesitation there, just trying to figure out where to go, what they've learned so far, and what that means for the rest of the seed. Once Daster finds the bottom of Red Tower transition, he's going to have seen all 5 criteria transitions, and 2 of them lead to Red Tower, and the other ones don't lead anywhere that he wants to go, I believe. At least not yet, of course. We'll also see if any runners decide to check the tube transition. It does require a little bit of a fancy trick to get up the tube with the water physics. You break the tube and then jump right away, and you get the full height of the jump, but the deceleration is slowed down like it is in water, so you can actually go all the way up to the top of the room into the door. We'll see if any of the runners want to do that. That is a very big find, actually. A gravity suit at the beta power bombs that Incomp just picked up, and Daster will be getting to in just a minute. It does look like the second major item is actually at X-ray, though. Paper trackers. Not going to be able to check that very easily just yet without the space jump from Billy Mays. So if it's something important, that's a really big advantage for Daster. Fortunately, Gravity Suit with the environmental damage changes does not protect against Vileplumes, so Incomp's still taking a good amount of damage at the moment from the world around him. It's a scary place, this planet Zebes. Planet Zebes. Daster having a little bit of trouble getting out of the beta power bombs area, actually. It's a cozy little area under that fake Vileplume. That was a really silly interaction, actually, from Incomp. It was a little bit too close to the Caterpillar, actually, so his shots were passing the Caterpillar and hitting the wall behind it. That's a little unfortunate. This game is silly sometimes. Daster gonna go up the elevator, find, I believe this was West Meridia that Incomp saw earlier. And we'll actually be able to go through it with the gravity suit. Unfortunately, there are no major items here, but we'll see if Daster wants to check out some of these door transitions. Looks like he's going over to the map station. See where this goes. Goes to the front of Upper Norfair. Once again, only one major item, so he's been pretty light on major items so far that we've seen. Dasser gonna take that Green Bryn portal any day of the week. Only 2 major items in Green Brinstar, so once again, not a ton, but there's so many checks here. You can get a ton of ammo, a ton of health, if the seed is nice to you. It's just a nice area to be in the early game. And who knows, those 2 items could be important. There's a reserve tank. We'll see if Dasser wants to pick that up. He'll have the option to go back for it. Speaking of important items, Charge Beam. Right here at the... I think Ron Papel Missile is technically the one behind the wall that contains this E-Tank. I don't know what the first one's called, but behind the reserve tank, basically. Also more energies, nice, as I mentioned. Honestly, with Incomp having a little bit of trouble in the early game, both runners are very close together. Obviously, Dasser has that space jump, and I believe he has a little bit more knowledge because he's checked the right side portals in Criteria. But the runners are still very close together, and there's a lot of race left. Even with Gravity in charge, there's still a lot to find. All 4 bosses need to be killed. I believe we've only seen 1 boss area so far in Lower Norfair, which the runners can't do just yet. I could be wrong, though. There's a lot going on, and I am one man trying to watch for everything. Apparently we saw Wreck Ship East. I missed that, but in that case, that's actually something they can do now with gravity suits. And of course, with Wreck Ship, Phantoon will be vanilla. So they will be able to do all those checks besides the Wreck Ship Reserve check, which requires Speed Booster. I didn't see where that was. I believe it was actually Crab Shaft in Criteria, but I could be wrong about that. Also, 3 major items. Oh, it was Moat and Tobacco Wreck Ship. Okay. But yeah, with 3 major items, it's a pretty nice spot to be, so I wouldn't be surprised if either of these runners can route it in nicely, that they will just do Wreck Ship as soon as they can get back to it comfortably. But first, gonna do these Pink Brinstar checks. Unlike the first few checks in Green Brinstar, the Pink Brinstar checks are actually a little bit spread out. It's a little bit awkward to do them all, even though you might be used to it if you run a lot of Major Minor, which most randomizer players do. It's kind of the standard item shuffle. So they don't feel as awkward as some other checks since we're so used to them, but it does take a while to check all of the items in this area. Not that I would recommend skipping them, of course. It's a major item that could still be Varia Suit, could still be Speed Booster or Ice. Could be another more powerful beam to upgrade your charge potential. Definitely wouldn't recommend skipping this major item, but it is a little bit awkward to get it, going through all the single checks in Pink Brinstar. Hey, Speed Booster. Well, now Dasser can skip the slower ones in Wavegate and behind Spore Spawn. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dasser just bail. I'm glad he picked up that missile, though. I saw him skip it. I was a little bit concerned. Even though he's got Charge Beam, he has only Charge Beam. It's not the situation you want to be skipping ammo in. It does have 35 super missiles, though, so pretty comfortable Ridley kill with just that. Speaking of Ridley, we are here in the back of Lower Norfair. Once again, with no Varia Suit, Dasser going to skip out on that. It's going to be interesting to see how Incomp decides to route Pink Brinstar, if he decides to do the same route as Dasser did, which will get him Speed Booster very early, or if he wants to check Wavegate and behind Spore Spawn before going down to charge and getting that Speed Booster. I think both plays are defensible, and obviously one will save him a lot more time than the other, given that we have the knowledge of what is where. So Dasser coming up on the third West Meridia transition, gonna go over to the fourth at the fish tank. See if this leads anywhere enticing. This is a pretty comfortable loadout to do all of East Meridia in, actually, with Speed Booster, Gravity, and Space Jump. I assume if Dasser finds East Meridia, he just goes all the way to Dragon. Unfortunately, this is not East Meridia, not the most comfortable position either, but with 4 E-Tanks, Upper Norfair is in logic, and we are going to see Dasser go through it, at least go to the transitions. We'll see how many item checks Dasser wants to make. Once again, there's some pretty slow checks, largely because you kind of have to refill in between each check of Speed, Wave, and the Reserve. And Speed Booster does speed up these checks, particularly the Speed check, funny enough. Yeah, I think Dasser's going to want that E-Tank. But they're still pretty slow, and there is only one major item. It could be Varia Suit, though, so we'll see what Dasser does. We'll see how he decides to play this. I think with that E-Tank, you're a little bit more... It's a little bit more enticing to just do the item checks right now before checking any areas to see if there's anywhere good to go from here. Yeah, Dasser going to take the save. I guess that could still mean he's either going to check the doors or check the items. And either way, if he doesn't like what he sees, he can reset back to the Bubble Mountain. But I assume this is a safety save to check the items. Looks like I was wrong, though. He's actually going to go down and go to, looks like, Chronic Boost. Gonna check that transition. I believe we've seen both of the Main Street, the elevator door transitions, both the left and right side. So we just have Croc and Chronic to check. And you can actually route pretty nicely. If Dasser can do the gate glitch, you can actually route pretty nicely from here to Crocomire. Well, definitely going to take a Kraid sighting. Once you see it, it's good to get this out of the way as soon as you find it, because it's always going to be vanilla Kraid, so pretty much no matter what your loadout is, you will be able to kill Kraid, even if it's a little bit awkward. And with this many super missiles, it is not awkward for Dasser. He's got a pretty comfortable loadout. There's also the Kraid refill right before the boss room, so we can refill his health before going back into Norfair. I hope he takes it. It's a nice little area that I would encourage people to go to. I'm a fan of health refills. I use them a lot, personally. I would encourage other people to do the same. We are still looking for the one item in Upper Norfair, and looks like Incomp is actually going to check the items at the front, at least going to High Jump. We'll see if he goes to Ice after. It's a little bit of an awkward hell run to get to Ice with only 2 E-Tanks, or only 2 E-Tanks filled, at least. And Spacer Beam was behind Kraid. Not the best item to find, but it is a firepower upgrade nonetheless. Definitely not something you're going to pass up at this stage of the game. That E-Tank is really big for Incomp. 4 E-Tanks is the amount logically required for going all the way back to Bubble Mountain through the normal hell run. Obviously, it would technically be in logic with 3 E-Tanks in a reserve, but having 4 full tanks is a much more comfortable experience. It also gives them a pretty comfortable run over to Ice Beam to check that item, which I would assume he's going to go to after this, but we'll see. Looks like Dasser did take the health refill, actually. I stopped looking, but he is full health, so either Kraid gave him crazy drops or he took the health refill. Either way, he's in a pretty comfortable spot re-entering Norfair to go over and check the Crocomire entry. I assume that's where he's going, at least. I could be wrong. It might be vanilla, actually. We've seen a lot of door transitions that aren't Crocomire. I believe we've seen all 4 in West Meridia. We've seen everything in Upper Norfair except for this, everything in Red Tower, everything in Criteria. There aren't a lot of transitions left, actually, so pretty good chance that this is vanilla Croc. Obviously not guaranteed yet, though. Dasser takes a little bit of damage through this room, but there's another health refill right here. So he's going to be full health, or mostly full health, entering Croc. Or entering the Croc entry. Once again, we don't actually know if it is Croc. It is not, but it is something to keep in mind. G4, Turian. Turns out you do need to go there to end the game, so knowing where that is a nice bonus for Dasser. We'll see when Incomp is able to find that. Unfortunately, taking a lot of damage on this Ice Beam Hell Run. Gets an E-Tank to get out, but still doesn't have the most comfortable way back to Bubble Mountain, where he would need to go to find G4. Also, unfortunately for Dasser, it looks like the major item is not here at the front of Upper Norfair. It is somewhere in Bubble Mountain, or it could also be at the Cathedral Missile. I believe that is still unchecked. Incomp did check both Ice Beam and the item under ice. Also, he does have Speed Booster. I kind of forgot because it was not on the tracker. My apologies. Like me, Storm D is just a man. Make mistakes when there's a lot of things going on. But yeah, Incomp would actually have had a nice way to get over to Bubble Mountain. Wouldn't need to do the Hell Run. Although, it would have allowed him to check Cathedral. Unfortunately, it looks like he doesn't want to do the Bubble Mountain checks, and neither does Dasser, so they're actually going to leave that item isolated, or orphaned, I believe is the word a lot of random players use for it. Point is, they're not getting that item right now. And you're going to see some benefits of Space Jump here. Dasser has it, and is able to get up this room very quickly. Incomp, on the other hand, a little bit less of an optimal loadout for it. Had to do this gravity jump, but is able to get up just the same. With this, Dasser still needs to check X-Ray. I imagine he does that now. He's got 6 E-Tanks and Space Jump, even though the spikes will do 60 damage to him. I think he's in a pretty comfortable position. Looks like Dasser's still leaving it unchecked, though. That could be important. Could be an important item. But... Actually, where is he going? Oh, he hasn't checked this yet. I see. I don't remember if Incomp checked this either, actually. This might be the first time we're seeing it. And it is Croc. With one item. And Dasser does not want it. That... I'm not gonna lie, that's a really weird decision to me. Not taking that right now. Very interested to hear what Dasser's thoughts on the situation he finds himself in. Hopefully he's going over to X-Ray now. I really do not like skipping major items in full countdown. There's only so many of them, and they're all pretty important at this situation for Dasser. You know, he's got Spazer, he's got bombs, theoretically the two most useless items right now. Obviously they are both useful, but not to the level that like a big beam upgrade like Plasma or Ice is, or High Jump or Varia. I really don't like the idea of skipping major items, but yeah, it looks like Dasser was just going over to check X-Ray first, and then potentially going to Croc, because technically Varia Suit is go mode. So I guess that's what he's thinking, but does not find Varia Suit. Instead finds a pretty nice weapon for killing Crocmire, actually, with the Plasma Beam. With Charge Plasma, you are able to kill him in one shot. Or, well, back him up in one shot so he dies to the acid, if you want to be technical about things. Unfortunately, Incomp actually running out of ammo on Croc. Without that Plasma Beam, it's a little bit of an awkward fight if you aren't super practiced with it. He'll back up 2 steps from a charge shot. So that's something to keep in mind for anyone learning how to fight Crocomire optimally. And it looks like Dasser's actually just skipping Croc. He's just leaving. That is wild to me. That's a really strange decision. It's got Space Jump too. It can pretty easily check every item in the Crocomire area, which is something that Incomp might actually struggle with a bit. But just gonna leave. It looks like he's going over to Rex Ship at Moat, I believe. So he is going to a place with a lot of items. There are 3 items in Ship, but Croc is right there. I don't know. It feels like a bit of a mistake from Dasser, I won't lie, but he has a plan and he's sticking to it, so that's good to see at least. Got a nice spark here from Incomp to go check the Crocomire Power Bomb. If this is Varia Suit, or if Varia Suit is somewhere in this area, it's pretty big for Incomp, because Dasser might not get back to it for a while. Oops. I just closed my chat window. I'm very sad. I want that back. So it actually looks like Dasser is going to Aqueduct, which was the other transition on the right side of Criteria, if I'm not mistaken. And does immediately find the major item. It is X-Ray. Not the most enticing, but it does give him very fast kills on Botwoon and Dragon with the Charge Plasma X-Ray, which it looks like Dasser is going to go to right now. I don't imagine he does any other item checks in this area. We will see if he decides to go to the other side of this area and check the Forgotten Highway transition. Whoops. Incomp setting up to check the Pantry Missile, I believe this is called. And it is Screw Attack, so good news for Dasser. He did not skip a required item, and honestly, not bad news for Incomp either. It's a pretty nice item to have, especially going into potentially going into an area like East Meridia, where there's a lot of enemies you can just get through without any fear. It's most notably helpful in Lower Norfair once the 2 runners are able to find Varia. I think that Screw Attack will actually make a pretty noticeable difference for Incomp, but still no Varia in sight. I believe it has to be at Wreck Ship now, if I'm not mistaken. No, that's not true. There's still one item in Upper Norfair, somewhere in Bubble Mountain. It could be up north. Which, if that's the case, that's both runners are going to be a little bit upset that they just skipped it. Ooh. Yeah, with just charged plasma, it's actually a little bit tough to get a full X-ray kill on Dragon. You have to have really good timing. There is actually a rhythm to it to do this optimally. I believe it's like 20 frames X-raying and then 5 frames letting go of X-ray? Maybe a little bit less than that. I remember Beef Robber, one of the runners in this tournament, talking about it a long time ago, but I don't remember what the exact numbers were. But the point is, you want to be tapping or letting go and re-tapping X-ray in the rhythm to be optimal. Either way, that is Dragon down for Dasser, who is now once again has a decision to make whether he wants to go straight into Wreck Ship from the back or wants to check the other side of East Meridia to see where that goes. Although I think that just attaches to Wreck Ship from the front. I think that's the only door left, if I'm not mistaken. There's nothing else I can think of that this can be, so I believe we are, in fact, going over to find the front of Wreck Ship. Although, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure if doing this is faster than just going back through Aqueduct and going to the back of Wreck Ship from Criteria. But either way, Dasser knows where he's going. I'm not sure if Dasser has seen every transition like we have. It's kind of hard to keep track of what the runners have seen, especially when we're not always 100% sure what we've seen so far. But once again, he's got a plan and he's sticking to it. And even if I don't agree with all of the details of that, I think that is the most important thing about running Area Randomizer, and arguably running Randomizer in general, is just knowing what you want to do in a situation and committing to it. Incomp is, I believe, actually going to be going to the right of Criteria for the first time, so he's going to find Aqueduct and the back of Wreck Ship. We're likely going to see 2 people in Wreck Ship at the same time. Unless Incomp decides to just go to Aqueduct right away, which wouldn't be an unreasonable play, to be fair. Looks like Incomp is going straight over to the transition that leads to the back of Wreck Ship. Unfortunately, yeah, he's gonna want to. I think he's gonna want to Shine Spark across because he does not have Space Jump yet. Actually, just not gonna bother with that at all right now. Gonna go find Aqueduct and gonna go through it. I didn't see what was that spooky missile for Dasser, but I saw his map. It looked like he did check it. Which is good. That's definitely not something you want to forget and do once Wreck Ship is active. It becomes much scarier, as it turns out. Nice X-ray Fantoon kill. Not quite. I think it was mashing X-ray a little bit too fast. I was talking about the rhythm with X-ray. The reason that's a thing is because the bosses, even if you're X-ray killing them, they have iframes, so you can only damage them so fast with X-ray. So if you do what a lot of people do, which is just mash the X-ray button, you're actually not going to be damaging them every time you press X-ray. You're only going to be damaging them once every 2 or 3 presses, depending on how fast you're going. Just something to keep in mind. I don't want to try to come across that I'm like trashing the runners for doing that. Like, oh, why didn't you know that? But I actually think it's something that a lot of people genuinely don't know. So, I like to see people improve. I think it's a valuable thing to learn because it speeds up something that you should be able to do very quickly, and sometimes you can end up not doing very quickly, like Dasser ended up doing. I think that was like a 3-round Fantoon, whereas with optimal X-ray plasma kill, it would have been a 1-round. So it does save time. Like there is a reason I'm bringing it up. See how Dasser decides to route Rex ship. He actually didn't even bother to pick up grapple beam at the left side supers. So there are 2 major items left. It looks like he's actually going to be skipping the Rex ship E-Tank for last, which makes sense because I think he wants to take that route back to Crateria instead of going all the way through East Meridia. So if that's what he's thinking about, which I assume it is, it's a good routing decision from Dasser. I'm gonna say it right now, not to jinx Dasser. I've never seen a major item in this location. That's the attic missile. Like, I'm not sure if that's an exaggeration. I think I've genuinely never seen a major item there in full. Not saying you should skip it, of course. Because logically speaking, it could be there. There could be an item there. I've never seen it. Fortunately, Incomp wasn't able to get a very clean spark on Dragon to open up the fight, and now Dragon's moving a little bit too fast to comfortably get a spark kill. So they're just going to have to use ammo, but fortunately he is able to do it fairly quickly. Also, without that plasma beam from X-Ray, doesn't exactly have the greatest way to kill Dragon in the first place. So that's why he had to rely on either just sparks or just ammo. Dasser's still looking for those last 2 major items in Rex ship. I saw he checked Sky Missile. I didn't see if he checked the Maze Missile. I hope he did. He definitely didn't check it from below, which is something you can do. But there are 3 items left. There's the 3 below bowling, and then the Rex ship E-Tank, which he has also not checked because he's saving that for last. Incomp with no high jump, no space jump is definitely not in a position where you're allowed to have good movement here. These rooms are so awkward without movement items, unfortunately. And honestly, having space jump and no high jump, so your jump height is messed up, kind of makes it worse in these situations where you don't get a long stretch of path to run on. There's the Wave Beam. That's also not very astute. Just saying. There's 1 more item in Rex ship and 1 in Bubble Mountain somewhere. Or Cathedral Missile. And one of those two items is Varia. Which will give both runners go mode, technically. Although Incomp still probably wants some more firepower. And there's Spring Ball, so it's Bubble Mountain. We got Varia somewhere in Bubble Mountain. And Dasser still has Croc to check. He made the decision to skip Croc earlier. Paper Tracker's actually having a little bit of trouble. These spikes do they do the full 60 damage to him, and he's landed a few times on these spikes. And actually filling his reserve all the way means he only can take 2 hits from the spikes. Whereas if he left a little bit, he would have been able to take 3, actually. Fortunately, is able to get that wall jump that he was struggling with. And with Gravity, Phantoon isn't too bad, because even though Gravity doesn't protect from environmental damage, it does protect from enemy damage. And so Phantoon will only deal 10 damage at a time to him. He should be fine, even though his energy is a little bit low in this situation. It might be a little bit of a rough Phantoon fight, though, without any good way to kill him. Doesn't have the charge plasma X-ray like... Oh no, got grabbed. It doesn't have the charge plasma X-ray that Dasser had. Yeah, I'm really interested to see how Dasser routes the rest of this. Mainly just, does he decide to go to Bubble Mountain first, or does he decide to go to Croc first? Although, to be honest, I actually don't remember where most of the area transitions lead. It's kind of awkward getting back to Upper Norfair from here, though. There's nothing that directly links to it in Criteria. I guess he's going over to Red Tower, and I believe there's a transition from Red Tower to Norfair. There's also a transition from Red Tower to Croc. So once again, I'm interested to see how Dasser decides to play this. Yeah, the last wreck ship item was Grapple Beam. Dasser decided not to pick it up because he's committed to finding Varia, so he's not going to do any pre-Ridley farming, or at least not a ton. And he's already killed Dragon, so he won't be able to do the quick grapple kill on Dre. So decided to skip the item. I don't disagree with it, but you know, it's Grapple Beam. It's a fun item. I would pick it up. And we do see Dasser going to Croc. Of course, we know this also isn't Varia. It's going to be his Screw Attack, which he's still probably going to be pretty happy to have in Lower Norfair. But it is not the item he's looking for, unfortunately. Yeah, the runners have not seen high jump. There are 2 items in Lower Norfair, and those 2 items are going to be Ice Beam and high jump because they can't be Varia. Varia cannot be placed in Lower Norfair. Which honestly are 2 items that will save time if they're able to find them without going out of their way. So we'll see how many Lower Norfair checks the runners want to make once they get there, or if they just want to finish the game. Come up on Incompetent Perfectionists Van Toon fight. So many long names in this race. Got Incompetent Perfectionist, and the team he's playing against is Mastercard Lotus PSC Baseball Guild. I don't know what PSC stands for. I will not lie. So, if anyone has the information... Did Incomp fight Kraid already? I actually don't know. I don't remember seeing it. So, yeah, it was in... The transition was somewhere in Upper Norfair, and I don't think Incomp has done a lot of exploration in Upper Norfair. So I think he hasn't done it yet. Yeah, it was the Chronic Boost transition. I think Incomp has only seen the top transitions. I'm not even sure if he's seen the behind, or if he's seen the single chamber transition. Does get a nice 4-round Fantoon, I believe. I didn't see if it was the 3 or 4 round. Stands for Pensacola State College. I definitely know. I could definitely point to that on a map. I swear. Trust me. Well, Dasser should be going to Upper Norfair. Depends on how zoomed in the map is, yeah. I mean, if you just give me a map of the college, I could probably point to it. In theory. Yeah, Dasser going to Upper Norfair through... This was the one I remembered being connected to Red Tower. This Up Red Tower elevator, it leads to Main Street in West Meridia, and down here should lead to the elevator in Upper Norfair. Yeah, there it is. To Northwest Florida, close to Alabama. So are all 3 of them, like, from there? Dasser and his teammates? I don't actually remember who's on that team, unfortunately. Forever and P-Toil, looks like. I mean, I can't claim to know where those 3 are from, so I guess maybe they are all from PSC. As Incomp also doing his wreck ship checks, looking for the 2 major items. Unfortunately, we know that it is not going to be Varia, but Wave Beam is going to be nice. Nice firepower upgrade for the currently Plasma and Spacerless Incomp. And Spring Ball is a fun item as well. Dasser scurries his way over to Bubble Mountain. There's 3 big clusters of items up there. There's Speed, Wave, and the Reserve. And there's also still unchecked the Cathedral missiles, which I know Storm D or Tracker was saying that's what he's betting on. That's where he thinks the area is going to be. So, if you want to make some judgments on Storm D's character based on that, I'll leave that to the viewer. But it is somewhere in those 4 locations. Varia suit is. And from there, Dasser can go to Lower Norfair and then come back to Upper Norfair and take the Croc portal, which leads to G4. And that will be the end of the seed. Well, that makes things easy. There's Varia. Didn't need to go deep in the reserve, didn't need to go to speed or wave, and most importantly, didn't need to go to Cathedral. Dasser still a little bit frustrated that he didn't find this earlier. Both runners were in Upper Norfair a while ago, and neither one decided to do the Bubble Mountain checks. So, I imagine they're both going to be pretty frustrated when they find Varia, but at the very least, Dasser is in go mode. Now the question is just how does he route to Lower Norfair and how does he route back? Obviously, Lower Norfair movement is not trivial, but with Plasma Beam and Screw Attack, I imagine it's not going to be too much of a problem for Dasser. Looks like we're going over to the right side of West Meridia. I don't remember what this transition is, but I believe it's something close to not Aqueduct, the Three Musketeers. It looks like Dasser knows where he's going, though, so I'll let him cook. Incomp gets his Wave Beam. There's Lower Norfair for Dasser. Fortunately, he can actually just take that path right back when he goes to... Uh-oh. Seems the stream's lagging a little bit. But he can take that route back when he goes back to G4, because G4 is attached to Up North. It is the Croc exit. Or Croc entrance, rather. I guess it's also the Croc exit. Oh, I changed the audio because Dasser was lagging a bit and then he stopped lagging immediately after I pressed the button. Whoops, my bad, guys. Incomp took a lot of damage there in Spiky Room of Death. He does have Crystal Flash ammo, actually, so in theory, can use that, but it will use all of his power bombs, which is not exactly what he wants to do. There's not a great health refill coming up. I guess he'll find the he'll find Criteria, and that'll lead him to the ship. And it turns out the ship is the best refill, although it's also the slowest. But that's the trade-off we make. Dasser, meanwhile, on Ridley. It's a pretty comfortable fight. He's got a lot of health. He's got a lot of supers. He's got a pretty powerful beam combo as well. There's really no need to save super missiles. All of the super doors are already unlocked, and you will get the refill from going down the Turian elevator, as all area rando seeds do. Technically, these doors are unlocked, so Dasser doesn't even need to wait for the drops. Though, I might have, to be honest, with only 3 tanks. Even though, with Screw Attack, you're never going to. I shouldn't say never. I don't want to jinx anyone. You are very safe, is what I'm going to say, throughout the rest of Lower Norfair. Yeah, that should be every boss for Dasser. I believe he did fight Fantoon earlier. Just, Incomp gonna take this refill I was talking about. The ship refill, the Nintendo 64 refill. Metroid 64 real question mark. Yeah, he actually doesn't know where the last item in Criteria is, and it's not super important at this point, but it's a really nice item to have with no high jump. He wants to find that space jump, and we'll see if he ends up going all the way to Billy Mays for it. And then from there, there's still X-Ray. He should know if he remembers that there's an item at X-Ray, and there's an item somewhere in Bubble Mountain. Of course, we know what those items are. What and where, even. Dasser has made his way out of Lower Norfair, and as I mentioned, he's just going back the way he came. I hope he doesn't farm this super missile a bunch of times. Does he remember the Turian refill? Or is he remembering a faster route? I don't really see... Not sure if what he's doing here is faster than just going back the way he came. But we'll see how Dasser routes back to G4. I'm not going crazy that G4 was attached to Upper Norfair, right? Did I remember that wrong? Have I been spreading misinformation? Because it was Kraid was at Chronic and G4 was at Croc, right? Yeah, okay. So where is Dasser going then? I wonder. Okay, well... This also leads to the elevator. Not entirely convinced that was faster than going back through the top of West Meridia and then through Single Chamber, but that's okay. He got back to Upper Norfair, and that's what's important. So, for better or for worse, Dasser 12 making his way to G4. And I don't want to spoil the results. I think Incomp just closed his stream after Dasser finished Turian and discarded the delay, which is why his stream is frozen. Actually, that's not true. He is still live. Just a restreamer. Or restream issue. Y'all hear me? We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, unfortunately. There's been a lot of races today of the Randomizer League over the last few days even, and honestly, we're lucky we've gotten to restream all of them so far, I believe. Like, that's actually a really big deal, especially since a lot of them were scheduled, 24 hours in advance, or even less than that in some cases. Unfortunately, we are having a little bit of a... Not going to be able to see Dasher's Turian or Incomp's reaction to finding the varia suit. Obviously, the race is finished in the race time because of the 10-minute delay. I don't want to spoil too much about what they're talking about, but I guess the spoiler is that the race does finish in a few minutes, and unfortunately for Incomp at least, if the race finishes in a few minutes, you kind of know who's going to be the winner. But if you haven't figured it out, we'll leave it till the race is finished on stream. So well played from both runners, I think, given the situations they found themselves in. Obviously, both were hesitant to go through upper norfair hell runs, even with one major item there, with a lot more major items left to find, especially since Dasser knew about the 3 in wrecked ship. They didn't want to commit to the slow Bubble Mountain checks, which would have involved a lot of refills. And obviously, had they gone for it, there's a good chance they would have found the varia quickly, like Dasser ended up doing. It was the first item he checked in Bubble Mountain. So, a little bit unlucky there. Obviously, the top of the top runners who are much more experienced with suitless upper norfair would have finished the seed much faster because they would have found varia much faster, but you can't fault the runners for how they played, I feel. I think they both played to their comfort level and the situations that the seed put them in. I think they both played pretty well, and obviously both have some takeaways on things they can improve on, but I think both are going to be, at the very least, proud of what they were able to show in this run. So we are on to Mother Brain for Dasser. What's that icon above his frame rate, his FPS? What's that little guy? Who's that? I don't know if that's something on his emulator or something on his layout. But I also don't know what character that is. Sorry if it's something that I should know, and I'm just a. Oh, it's the team. It's this team logo. I see. I see. I thought it was like a face, like a biker helmet with a visor. It's like a Speed Racer type character. I guess I don't think Speed Racer had a full helmet like that, but still. It's a baseball with the Mastercard, Lotus, and PSC logos. Cool. Yeah, like I said, well played from Dasser, other than the skipping what ended up being Varia suit at Bubble Mountain. The seed had some fun stuff, which area seeds will always have some fun stuff going on. But I think other than that, a lot of the gambles Dasser made paid off, and the ones that didn't were still reasonable choices. And the same goes for Incomp, of course, which I'm not sure if we'll get his stream back before the race ends. He's still live on Twitch, so might just be a more restream sadness. Yeah, while we're here, y'all can follow both these runners, Dasser 12 and Incompetent Perfectionist. Dasser moves on to the escape. Without high jump, it's a little bit awkward, but at least having that speed booster to speed up Room 3 and the climb. Does Room 3 actually have a name besides Room 3 and or pre-Leodox room? I've never actually heard anyone use a name for that room. Which, to be fair, in most vanilla runs, there's not a lot going on in that room. You kind of just spark through it. Just a moment. Yeah, Leodox room is the old room. I don't actually remember what the story behind it is. I know, like, maybe Leodox lost a race in that room or something because he messed it up. Either way, Dasser is going to finish in first place with an official racetime.gg time of 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 22 seconds. Unfortunately, Incomp is going to take the forfeits. I believe, according to the post-race chat, he did find Varia right before the done from Dasser. So, if that gives a rough estimation of where he would have been on Restream had we been able to see it, you can see he still would have had all of Lower Norfair and all of Turian to go. It was a well-played run from Dasser. Honestly, the early space jump, like the early Billy Mays to get space jump, made a pretty big difference, I feel. He was able to route a lot more comfortably through most of the seed. If we want to talk about the specific differences between how the two played, I think that was a pretty big one. Looks like we will have both coming in for an interview in just a moment. Yeah, go ahead and follow the runners. The link was posted in chat. Follow Storm D, the tracker, alongside his real life son, apparently. Shoutouts to both of them. And me. I'm cool sometimes. I'm interested to see where the last two items were. Obviously, they were both in Lower Norfair, but I don't think Dassler checked the single item in Lower Norfair. I don't even think he checked the pre-Hotarubi missile. Or I guess that's just the Hotarubi missile. But you know what I meant. I'm interested to see where those two major items were in Lower Norfair while we wait for the runners to get set up on the interview. Ice Beam was in PB's in jail, it looks like. High Jump was at Fireflies. So, there you have it. All right, we are joined by Dassler12 and Incompetent Perfectionist, our two runners. GG to both of y'all.
GG.
GG, Dassler.
I mean, I guess the first thing to talk about in that seed was just the struggles getting varia suit, which both of you ended up getting really late, it seems.
Yeah. When I see one item in Upper Norfair, I usually decide that's an item to skip. And I didn't realize until I cleared everything else that, oh, that's varia suit.
Same.
Sure was.
And it's especially painful for me because when I was in Upper Norfair, I had bombs and speed, and I could have easily checked the reserve location in like 2 minutes. But I took that same risk. I was like, I did all left side just to make sure it wasn't sitting there, and the west side, I guess. But yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking to see at the end there.
Yeah, I'm not sure any other specific details. Y'all kind of both did a pretty thorough clearing of the world. I guess I can ask how both of you feel about seeds like that, where, it's a full area seed. You kind of have to go everywhere. I guess just what are your thoughts when you're in that situation? Once you realize that you kind of have to traverse the whole map, how do you approach that situation and how do you want to play it out? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think I kind of like it, just, items scattered everywhere. In that case, I don't really have a set strategy, I guess. Just go everywhere, don't pick up minors and pick up majors.
Fair enough.
Yeah, for me, like the first order of business is to try to find all the one-offs like Torian and Croc and Kraid, and to try to not get and to check out some of the tube levels, like that's what I call them, like Lower Norfair and Wreck Ship and East Meridia. That's just one in, one out, and just to sort of get an idea where the blind spots are. But this one, I felt like I was just pinging around everywhere, and I was sort of just trying to take some wild plays because I know Dassler is a lot faster than me. And so I was trying to take some calculated wild plays that might pay off, like skipping Upper Norfair, which absolutely did not pay off. And yeah. And I had a little bit of race nerves at the beginning. I couldn't get that ceiling E-tank. Like I just had to reset the room so many times, and I said, forget it, I'll find power bombs somewhere else. And then, of course, I heard from Dassler that that's where Space Jump was, up in Billy Mays. That would have helped me so much. I would have made a lot of different choices, I think, and flown through some of those areas a little bit faster, but that's randomizer.
Yeah, absolutely. That space jump did end up making a pretty big difference. That's actually an interesting play to talk about, making the Billy Mays play in full area with
Oh yeah,
only 5 power bombs.
yeah. I like to check Billy Mays because it's 2 more items, and you never know what those 2 items could be. It could be both the majors. It could be some ammo packs and E-tank. So I'd like to just check it because, especially in the beginning of the game, you don't have anything, so anything helps.
Yeah, I usually do too. If I had gotten those power bombs, I would have gone up to Billy Mays, no question, because you can always find the meme route information in a different way and then get that item then. So if I'm down there with power bombs, I'm gonna Billy Mays on area, or full rather.
I respect it. I respect it. Don't think I have anything else to say. So if either of y'all have any final things you want to shout out that you feel you did in the run that you wanted to show off, or any other final
I
thoughts?
just say thanks for commentating. Thanks to the tracker for tracking, and GG's.
Yeah, same. Thanks to everyone. GG. It's a lot of fun.
All right, so that is going to do it for us then. We have a race going on right now on Speed Gaming 3. We've got Salty Pigeon 87 versus Fat Scott 25. And on this channel, Speed Gaming 2, at 5 p.m., we're going to have Dirksu versus Kaizenton. And then a lot more races the rest of the day. A ton of races going on Sunday. If you want to watch more Super Metroid Randomizer, it's going to be happening, so it's a good time to be paying attention to the Speed Gaming channels. Until then, thank you for watching.